coming from somebody who thought I was going to end up as a statistic, because growing up without a dad, being diagnosed with SPD and ADHD and whatever else, it's like, oh, then you're going to be more likely to have addiction, and you're just a product of your environment. And these are all things and lies I believed. One of my favorite quotes I've ever heard was, one word from God is more powerful than a lifetime of lies from the enemy. And it's true. So I'm Sawyer. I moved here about 5 or 6 years ago. My dad died when I was very young, and I grew up with a stepdad that wasn't the best, let's just say. And so I really had no understanding of my worth or who I was or what my place in the world was. I moved in with my grandparents, and I saw their lives. My papi was a Southern Baptist pastor. It was his love that I saw for people who wronged him that really made me understand what the love of God looks like. And I asked him one day, I said, how can you love some people who have consistently done you wrong? And he just said, God told me to love them. What they do is between them and God. That was one thing that really stuck with me. After he passed, I hit a low. I think I did heroin for the first time. I shot up, and it was just looking for an escape, anything to get away from what I'm dealing with, what I have to focus on. A little while after, I chewed on a fentanyl patch. I was living out of a van, and I was working full time. I was going to college, found myself living in a trap house in the winter because that's better than a van in Michigan winters. I remember saying, I just don't want to feel anything anymore. And I tried crack cocaine for the first time. Farther and farther down the rabbit hole of just misery, depression, no idea who I was. I was looking in the mirror, just understanding where it was coming from, but just not knowing how to get there. After that, I was moving drugs from point A to point B while smoking them, and after a while, found myself in Florida trapping pounds from Oregon to there. I was going to a store, got pulled over. They found a dab pen I forgot I had under the front seat. That's a big thing down there in Florida, and so they arrested me. I went to jail, and I was cooperative, and so they marked it down to 40 days, time served. I was just sick of living 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Just my entire life, it seemed. In there, I was able to read a lot of Philippians, because I knew that to be Paul's prison epistle, even though most of his writings were in prison. But that one really spoke to me. I turned 26, which is a big year for me because my dad died at 26, and I didn't think I'd outage him. And the thought crossed my mind, I have to be somebody now that my dad could look up to. So I went back, I got involved with church. I ended up getting completely clean in November, about 6 years ago now. Since then, I just found community there, people who've gone through it. One of the most impactful things, there was a guy named Don who ran a Celebration Recovery, and he was another biker dude. And I remember getting to my first year sober, and it was the first time I seen a grown man cry. And that was pretty intense, because I always understood it as, grown men they tough it out, they work through it. But, God showed us that he cares. Even he cried, when someone he cared was dead at the time. Even though he knew that there was power to raise that man from the dead, he still wept for him, and he still cared, and he cares for us deeply. He cries over us all the time. Since then, I've just been able to, they started me driving, funny enough, the kids to get to church. So I went from driving drugs from point A to point B to getting kids to church. They gave me a year to kind of, get my legs underneath me. Started me in youth counseling with the youth, working there, doing that. I've recently graduated, Explanations Bible College. I've learned that God loves me. It was the first time I actually realized my worth. I'm worthy of having a purpose. It's I rediscovered my value and my worth, because I never really had that poured into me. And that's what God's given me through the church, through men of God who've been through it, who know what's happened. So I was in worship, and I was going through stuff, and all these doubts and insecurities were coming against me. And I just felt him say, he's word for word, listen here, boy, you don't make yourself worthy. I've made you worthy. Now walk in it. And I was like, oh, yes, sir. And it's true, like he's made me worthy. Like he has deemed us of such value. Like we're worthy because God has deemed us worthy because he died for us. He that worthy, like he experienced death, even death on a cross, so that we could be made the righteousness of God, so we could have a relationship. He didn't have to do that, and he did, because he cares that deeply for us. You know, we were separated from him. I had no life, no purpose, no worth outside of him, and he was like, no, you have worth, and I'll prove it to you, and he did.